you all doing today? Today our topic is going to be job dissatisfaction. But first, let's have our quote of the day. Our greatest fear should not be of failure, but instead of succeeding at things in life that really don't matter. Francis Chan. Boredom at work leads to job dissatisfaction. The changes in the economy that began in 2008 indicate that more Americans are dissatisfied with their jobs now than ever before. The Gallup Well-Being Index, which randomly sampled about 60,000 working adults from January through April of 2011, it showed an increase in the worker job dissatisfaction. The results of that poll suggest that employees feel that they're detached from their jobs and companies for which they work. Now, a major turnoff at work or cause for job dissatisfaction is an unsupportive boss. Someone who isn't really invested in seeing you get ahead. We've all experienced this. Now, with companies downsizing and keeping resources at a minimum, managers become more concerned about the bottom line rather than the very people who can have a direct effect on the bottom line. Managers who disengage from their employees and focus only on results without providing inspiration, motivation, or employee support are often unaware that they might be actually adding to the problem as a major cause of job dissatisfaction. Another possible reason is just the lack of meaningful work. This plays a big part in dissatisfaction. Employees lose interest in work that offers no challenge or opportunity or growth or incentives for meaningful work. It's easy to disengage from a job in an organization that doesn't really value you as an employee or offer incentives for your growth. To feel happy at work, employees need to feel like there's a chance to move forward and progress. When employees feel that their contributions are significant, they feel better at work and they tend to work harder. Oftentimes, employees feel that they're overworked and underpaid. Now, employer staff and resource cutbacks leave remaining employees taking on more responsibility, and you don't necessarily get an increase in pay for that. So while salary isn't always the motivation for happiness at work, employees who work long hours still find themselves behind economically. They're frustrated and dissatisfied with their jobs. Employees with the lowest incomes are the most satisfied with their jobs. And concerns about high employment rates and job security are also playing a part in job dissatisfaction. Work and life balance is also very important. A lot of companies that fail to recognize the need for employees to maintain a healthy balance are ultimately affecting their own productivity levels. Even if a company can offer salary increases, one way to improve job satisfaction is to create trade-offs for life and work balance. So instead of offering raises, companies might offer incentives such as paid days off, flexible scheduling, or rewards such as movie tickets or tickets to shows, sporting events, something like that. The reality is, most Americans are unhappy at work. Are you feeling dissatisfied with your job? Well, if you are, you're among the majority. 52.3% of Americans polled are unhappy at work, according to a new report by the Conference Board, which is a New York-based nonprofit research group. Now, every year since 1987, the board has run a job satisfaction survey. Nearly 3 decades ago, 61.1% of workers said they liked their jobs. Now, that number slid over time, reaching an all-time low in 2010, following the Great Recession, when only 42% of workers said they were satisfied with their jobs. The survey asks workers how they feel about various parts of their experience, including job security, wages, the promotion policy, vacation policy, sick leave, health, retirement plans, all those types of measures. Now, looking at all of that, workers were much happier in 1987 than they are now. And as the prospects for long-term work with the same employer has eroded, employees have been saddled with ever higher health plan deductibles, payroll deductions. Those are the 2 categories where worker satisfaction fell the most, both declining by at least 11% since 1987. Significant. The report also looked at satisfaction gains in the short term. As for income, the results highlight the gap in satisfaction between high wage earners and those at the bottom of the income scale. Workers making more than 125 grand were the most satisfied, with around 64% saying they were happy with their compensation, compared to only 59% in 2011. Only 24% making under 15,000 were satisfied. Surprise, surprise. In the mid-range, 44% of those people making between 50 and 75,000 said they were satisfied, versus 45% in 2011. So, pretty close there. Now, what makes employees happiest at work? Interest in work? Well, 59% said what satisfied them with the people they work with. What worries workers most? Layoffs. Even though hiring's picked up, only 46% of employees say they feel satisfied with job security, compared to 48% before the recession. And it's also way down from 59% who said they felt they had job security in 1987. We've come a long way. Finally, the report has some interesting data comparing men's and women's satisfaction at work. Men overall tend to be happier with their jobs, with 47.8% saying they're satisfied, versus 46.3% of women. There are also signs that the glass ceiling persists, and that's shown in the differing satisfaction about promotion and compensation. Among men, 26% say they're satisfied with their promotion prospects, versus only 21% of women, and 38% of men are happy with their wages, versus only 34% of women. Some of the other significant findings were, for the third year in a row, the largest percentage of respondents have indicated that respectful treatments of all employees at all levels is a very important contributor to their job satisfaction. Trust between employees and senior management is gaining importance, as the aspect increased 6% compared to percentages in 2015. Compensation displayed the largest discrepancy between importance and satisfaction, with 35 basis points, or 35 percentage points. One reason might be for the 9 percentage point drop is the amount of workers receiving bonuses in the prior year. Now, however, the number of raises given to employees was consistent with previous years. So although job satisfaction and employee engagement levels are relatively high, 2 out of 5 employees, or 40%, expressed to some degree the possibility of seeking employment outside their organization within the next year. Not surprisingly, the leading reason for workers to stay or leave in an organization is compensation and pay. Now, the conference board relied on Nielsen, which conducted a mail survey of 5,000 households and got responses from 1,673 workers. They examined 44 aspects of job satisfaction and 38 factors directly related to employee engagement. Among the topics explored are career development, relationships with management, compensation and benefits, work environment, engagement opinions, engagement behaviors, and conditions for engagement. Now, this executive summary discusses the leading job dissatisfaction or job satisfaction contributors and the degree of importance and satisfaction and implications, and they also gave recommendations for improvement. Now, there's a level of job satisfaction for each person and each job performed, and problems occur when people are just not happy with their jobs. So let's talk more about job dissatisfaction. Not everyone can be satisfied with their job. In the 2012 survey conducted by Right Management, 65% of the individuals that were surveyed said they either somewhat or completely unsatisfied with their jobs. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, maybe there's only a problem here in the US. But the survey actually shows it's a worldwide problem. In a Mercer study of 30,000 workers worldwide, between 28 and 56% of the workers around the globe said they wanted to leave their jobs. Now, with all these unhappy people, you might wonder what causes these high percentages. Additionally, you have to think about the reactions and responses from employees who don't have a job satisfaction, or when they're unhappy, they tend to act out. Now, when we're younger, we act out by pouting or stamping our feet or maybe even holding our breath. But it's important to understand how employees respond when they're not satisfied with their jobs. Understanding the responses help companies identify that discontent hopefully address it before it goes too far. Now, many employees feel dissatisfied with their jobs at one point or another. Some employees leave their jobs for better opportunities, while others choose to stay. Employees with low job satisfaction can negatively affect a company because they typically lack motivation, perform poorly, and possess negative attitudes. Now, these symptoms can directly affect the company's bottom line. Managers need to understand the reasons that employees are unhappy at work, because understanding the causes can help managers find the right solutions. There are a number of specific causes for job satisfaction, but let's talk about the four main ones. First one, of course, is feeling that you're being underpaid. Now, this is the most challenging one to work with because it can be driven by interpretation or perspective that's very personal or individually focused. If a person doesn't think they're being paid enough to do a job, they may perceive themselves as being underpaid, even if the wages they make are actually in line with comparable jobs in other companies in that industry. So, if they research the wages for that job and they find indeed they're being underpaid, then of course the dissatisfaction is warranted. But in addition, there could be analogous circumstances. For example, they could see someone who does the same job, but yet they're maybe driving a better car, or they live in a nicer house or a better neighborhood. And so once again, they believe they're being underpaid, but unless you know that others are actually making more, and you research that from accurate sources that are appropriate for a job function, so comparing apples to apples, job dissatisfaction for being totally underpaid can actually be based completely on your perception. So it's tough to accurately measure this when it can be subjective. Now, for the job they do, if people are unhappy and they're dissatisfied, most likely they're going to leave the organization. And once again, whether it's for a real reason, they really are being underpaid, or they just perceive they're being underpaid. So, moving along, second most important reason for job dissatisfaction is limited career growth. If you don't have the opportunity to climb the ladder and grow your career, that's another thing that can foster job dissatisfaction. Though it's important to understand that not everyone wants to move up the ladder. However, for those who do, if the company doesn't afford them the opportunity for growth, most likely they're going to become disenchanted. Now, employees who feel stuck in their jobs are less motivated to maintain high productivity than those who don't. Now, workers feel valued when employers include them in their long-term planning and they show appreciation through promotions or perks. Employees who move up in an organization and receive just compensation to reflect their title and responsibility usually commit themselves to the company for the long term. A third major reason is just lack of interest in the work. If you don't like what you do, if it's boring, you're probably not going to be real happy. Most employees want to perform job duties that they find are engaging and challenging. Monotonous work causes an employee to experience boredom. Bored and unchallenged employees experience little incentive to concern themselves with the workplace productivity. What do they care? Now, according to Lisa Sari and Timothy Judge from the University of Tennessee, the nature of employees' work accounts for the most situational influence in workplace satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And the fourth of the big four is poor management. The management team plays an important role within an organization, and managers are responsible for motivating employees, planning, organizing, and controlling within the organization. A key reason employees perform poorly in the workplace is poor management. Managers with poor leadership skills tend to offer little feedback on employee performance. And micromanaging and dictating to employees, instead of motivating them, can cause a decrease in productivity. Now, some organizations possess highly political cultures, and that also tends to discourage workers from believing the roles they fill are actually important to the organization. So, those are the four major causes of job dissatisfaction, but let's untangle the knot and explore the source of your dissatisfaction. Now, You could be wondering whether you made the right career choice, or you're buckling under the pressure of a micromanaging boss, but it might seem easy to point the finger at the cause of your dissatisfaction. But before jumping ship, or jumping to any quick conclusions, make sure to explore the deeper reasons that you're unhappy at work. Because aside from the 4 causes I just talked about, what else causes dissatisfaction? It could be something that's like a minor annoyance, or even hardly noticeable to others. Now, the first step in achieving authentic job satisfaction is understanding yourself well enough to know where you can steer, where you can pivot, and when you don't really need to do either. Now, let's say your values don't align with the corporate culture. Can you live with that, or is that a deal breaker? Perhaps you enjoy working for the people on your team, but the opportunities for advancement seem limited. Is it a promotion at a priority at this time? Do you get frustrated by your boss's lack of interest in you? If so, can you come up with a proactive solution? Sometimes situations change in a variety of ways, turning a job you once loved into one that leaves you feeling frustrated or dissatisfied. You may have been hired at one company, but then you find that culture, and perhaps even your job description, undergoes transformations over time. Maybe it's acquired by a new owner, merges with a new company, they ask you to take on an additional role. I mean, budget cuts at the corporate department level oftentimes do increase your workload. Or perhaps it's a boss with whom you really click leaves the company, and you're left with someone else who maybe you don't click with quite as well. Or maybe you're hired as a programmer, and then you're moved into a project management position. That's where the company needs you, but it's not really where you want to be. Whether you're trying to identify the source of your job dissatisfaction, your career, the company, your job, your boss, the people you work with, or maybe even yourself, the answer isn't always that clear. Unfortunately, there may not be a simple way to find an easy answer. Now, luckily, a career coach can help you decide what's the best course of action. Whether you want to explore other career options, go back to school, find a new job, or look for ways to make your current position more engaging, maybe even more enjoyable. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Well, certain circumstances clearly point to a blatant mismatch between a person and their career or company. Most of the time, the dissatisfaction comes from a decision or series of decisions that you made. Knowing that we made those decisions can be very empowering. You may not have the luxury of a great boss, but you always have the luxury of owning your own thoughts, perspectives, actions. You might find that despite your frustration, you're not in a position to make a career or job move. It's up to you to make the decision to carry out the responsibilities of your job, and with a different mindset, knowing that when and if your situation changes, you can take appropriate action. When you experience intense job dissatisfaction, you tend to hold on to anger longer, and it becomes emotional baggage. That negativity, it can completely zap your energy. So sometimes, developing an acceptance that you can't control the uncontrollable can be very freeing. Let go, or letting go, is not the same as ignoring. Rather, it's making a deliberate choice. So when you feel that things are intolerable, you can either say, I'm moving on, or things need to change. And at a certain point, all of us have to take responsibility for stepping away. This point indeed may be a moment characterized by, I've had enough. Enough is enough. Now, in general, people don't regret making a shift, or even leaving a career, a company, a job, or a boss. Rather, they regret not doing it sooner. Anyway, that's some of the major areas of job dissatisfaction. I hope you found that illuminating. And if you are dissatisfied with your job, maybe you can take a closer look and identify exactly what's causing the dissatisfaction. And that should help you determine if it can be rectified, or maybe it is just time to move on. Remember, When one door closes, another one opens. But we often look at the closed door for so long that we don't even see the one that's open for us. The happiest people are not the ones getting more, but the ones who are giving more. This is Joe Pastore with Platinum Method Coaching, and I'll talk to you again another time.